Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Voice of Youth. This is Ali Mohsin Hashmi, your presenter, and we welcome you to yet the last episode of Voice of Youth for Ramadan issue. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed throughout this Ramadan a series of Voice of Youth shows. As usual, as you're already aware, what we try to do in this particular show is that we try to bring issues associated with youth, trying to resolve them by presenting it to our senior panelists, who actually then come up with their valuable advice. And then also in the recent shows, what we also discovered was that value which was sort of added by a member of youth who have been with us on the shows in the recent episodes. It gave us an opportunity to actually understand what's actually happening on the grassroots level when it comes to youth themselves in the deeper end. And today, and we've actually discussed the issues associated with education, which started all the way from childhood and grassroots, and then moving on to 16 and onwards group, and then moving on to A-levels and then universities, and how that impacts our community on a wider scale. And also when the youth who actually end up in universities, when they actually finish off those universities and then become graduates, what sort of statistics do we actually come across? What sort of grades they get when they finish universities, and more importantly, how they actually get to universities. Before we actually get into any further, I'd like to introduce our panel, members of panel. On the left, first of all, Kurat Zedi is here with us as always. Thank you very much for again undertaking today's presence with us. Right next to Kurat, we've got Sayyida Amina Bukhari, who's been with us from day one and very kindly worked with us very closely on education in particular. And today, viewers, we've got our guest, our sister, who has literally just finished A-levels and a proud GCSE result owner. Your name is Eman Kiani, and you live in the Birmingham vicinity, and you have joined us today because of your, I should say, very good grades in A-levels. We welcome you to the show as well.
Thank you.
Viewers, as you know, that this week we actually, our brothers and sisters who actually just finished their A-levels, they got their results, and today's show is actually dedicated for all those brothers and sisters out there who actually got their results. If they're good or they're mediocre or if they're bad, you can get advice from the valuable panelists who are actually with us today, in particular Amina, who's actually worked in the education sector for more than 20 years. So this is an opportunity for all the A-levels students who actually got their results, now that it is, you know, a very crucial time of your lives, and it is a really deciding moment for you as to what you wish to do in your life at university, after university, and what direction you're going to go towards. So we would welcome any calls throughout the show from the member of youth who actually have got their A-levels results. First of all, once again, I'd like to thank both of you and yourself, Eman, for yet again be with us on the last episode of Voice of Youth for Ramadan. So far, what do you think this show has done to the community?
Well, I hope this show has opened the community's eyes, made them more aware of the reality of what's going on within the community, and now put the awareness into actions now. And hopefully, inshallah, we become united and more focused on the young people's development.
And how do you think that would affect our young people who actually did watch the show?
It will help the young people because they will have a place to go, people to trust, and a community that will support them in whatever they need their support in.
Brilliant, okay. Amina, in your view, the last 4 or 5 weeks and approximately 10 shows, 11 shows that we've done today being the 12th, how do you think this would impact our community? And the things that we've discussed in the shows, how do you think that may affect our youth moving forward on the wider community?
Yeah, I'm hoping that it will raise awareness amongst the parents and the youth, and for the community to become more proactive, and the youth to also ask for their rights of what their needs are and how we could support them, as well as parents becoming aware of what's going on, because sometimes parents aren't clear of what is happening around them, and this show will bring to light some of the concerns and the issues and the developments which are taking place.
That's good.
It's all about evolution.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really was a small effort from Hidayat television as well, that, you know, what we tried to do was bring those issues to light, because at the moment what we thoroughly understand is that youth is actually the most important valuable asset that we have, and clearly they would build the future of our community, not only in Britain but also on the wider scale and internationally as well, because in today's day and age the professionals are not just becoming professional in the UK, they actually then move out and then become an example British citizen wherever they go, and then they represent the country. We've seen in various athletics, and we've seen in Olympics, and we've seen in IT, and we've seen in law and different divisions of education sector. We have actually seen our members of youth who are actually doing really well. They're true professionals, and it all starts from schooling and then moving on to your sixth form. And when you talk about sixth form, we have our guest Eman Kiani with us today. Eman, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please tell us your experience, first of all, within the A-levels and how easy it was for you to get to what grades you got, and please tell us what your grades are as well.
Well, it wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. Don't underestimate A-levels at all.
Okay.
I went to Hudgel Girls' School, which is like, it was in my area at the time. So and then I got my GCSEs, and my school didn't have a sixth form. If it had a sixth form, I would have stayed on.
Right.
And then after that, I applied to various sixth forms in Birmingham, and I got into King Edward's Camp Hill Girls in Kings Heath.
Really good.
So the transition from, a completely different type of school, because it's a grammar school, so it was very different, but I wasn't sure if the difference was because it was A-levels or was it because it was a grammar school.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can put my finger on that. So, but A-level studies, a massive jump from GCSE.
Yeah.
I think really, and especially, I think it also depends on what subject you do as well.
Yeah.
Because with any subject, I think there's, if you had done the subject at GCSE, because I did RS as well, religious studies at GCSE, and then when I did at A-level, it was just completely different.
So as in today's topic is, results, A-level results, and what we're trying to understand is that, because obviously there is a big debate in establishment and educational groups who are actually in the far right corner, and they're saying that there needs to be a reform in education system when it comes to A-levels. Now, purely because they think, or there is a atmosphere, or there's a vibe that it is an understood fact that A-levels is relatively easier as it was many years ago. So therefore there needs to be a reform and a little bit of input from universities. Would you agree with that thought?
Personally, I don't think it's easy, because I think people think, obviously if you look at it from a background, looking at previous statistics and looking at decades back, then you can understand. But for people, the youth of today, for us, we haven't experienced what education was like 20, 30 years ago, so we wouldn't know.
So the surroundings back then would translate the curriculum back then.
Yeah, but for us at this point in time, for me personally, it was challenging, because this is all I've ever experienced, so I wouldn't have anything else to compare it to in any way. So I mean,
but did you have to work hard, or did you have to put in a lot of hours? Do you have to do a lot?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, you can't get through A-levels without working at all. And honestly, if I went back, I would have worked harder, because I think, you can always do better in anything. I don't think there's you haven't reached your optimum in anything. You can always do better if you do go back. But
that's really good.
I'm glad they're over.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, that's brilliant. Well, viewers, we would just like to advise you and also congratulate our sister Eman Kiani that she actually did get very good grades, and they are actually all very high grades, I should say. Not to make those who actually didn't get good grades, or they didn't get very high grades, any way demoralised, but we congratulate you on your grades. What is the ambition for future?
Medicine, hopefully.
It's very good.
I didn't get into the UK, so I've applied abroad.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want to rush into anything yet, because I think obviously going abroad is a big, it's a massive change.
It is.
Education system is completely different, but I'm hoping to stay in Europe, because it's.
Why not UK? I mean, the rest of the world comes to UK because universities in the UK are quite well respected.
My grades didn't make the minimum offer for medicine, for medicine in the UK you need the majority of, there's 31 medical schools. Out of them, I think all of them now have a minimum offer of 3 A's at A-level.
Right.
I didn't make the 3 A's, so I can reapply, but there's a very small chance of me getting in, because obviously if your minimum offer is AAA, I think I'll be wasting a year for reapplying.
Even after AAs, you need to have at least one distinction or at least one A star or 2 A stars, depending on which school you go to.
Oxbridge applicants, for example, Cambridge or Oxford, they do usually have an A-star AA offer, and now Birmingham University has also started handing out some A-star AA offers for medicine as well.
Which is what I was referring to. So, so I'm assuming that this is why you would like to move abroad and...
Yeah, and I also think because of a tuition fee rise, I think it'd be a good learning experience to go abroad as well, because I think the places I'm looking at, such as in Italy and Bulgaria, learning a new language as well as, you know, being in a completely different environment, it'd be a good learning curve for me.
And then exposure to the international world as well. That's brilliant. Okay, see, this is very important. Now, this really goes back to our initial conversations. Students who actually are they're doing really well, and they are doing good in schools and A levels, and then yet, you know, for whatever reason, if they don't get, you know, one extreme, and they are in the middle somewhere, or I should say slightly above the middle bracket, then there isn't much that universities offer these students.
It's not that they don't want to. It was in the newspaper not long ago we had a discussion that now majority of universities in the UK have closed applicants to students like my sister who actually made the grade, but they refused them because they find it more beneficial financially to get overseas students, where your sister would be paying 9,000 a term. Overseas student for the same course would be paying 20,000.
For medicine, it's now gone up as high as 11,000.
If you do the maths, I think a lot of UK British-born students who have got the grades can't get in, not purely because they haven't achieved the aims or the point, it's because the university wants to invest.
Isn't there sort of a divide between that this is how many international students we can have?
No, they haven't got
so
that.
So they can have as many international...
as they want, yep.
Okay, so I can't really get my head around it, because I'm sure there's got to be the act. I'm actually not fully aware of that act, but there's got to be an act which drives the quota of international students, which actually makes sure that the UK students who come via UCAS in the UK, they are actually taken the first priority. And then there are certain seats which are given to the international students. It used to be happening like
that when the fees, like when I was doing my university, there weren't that many international students, whereas you look at today how.
But this is exactly what UCAS was meant to control. So
definitely.
that there wasn't so the UK students were treated on a preferential basis, and then after we've chosen the best from the UK, then we open the seats, or certain seats.
But now if you're putting 20,000...
there is a quota for students. However, it's quite a lucrative market for overseas students, and universities also have their funding needs. And so therefore they encourage foreign students to apply, and they market them quite heavily. But going back, this is a prime example of this deprivation that we talk out, and how where we've got the inner city schools, and then we've got the people who are going in and applying for universities. If they're not getting the support, and they can't get into the university for their grades, and if they do get in for their grades, they can't afford to because the university fees are too high. And if they are living again in around the areas that we've been researching, then they won't be able to, even though they work hard and they get the grades, they're still not going to be able to apply because they can't afford the funding to pay for the fees.
How do you feel about that? I mean, that, you know, you lived here, you're born here, you're raised in the UK, and now throughout your educational career, now you've gone to that point where you need establishment to look at you and help you, and then yet universities and education system is not able to offer you any help and help you with your aspirations of becoming a doctor.
I think we have to look at, because obviously the course that I applied for was medicine and dentistry in their own. They're very competitive courses anywhere in the world that you go. And now, especially in the UK, because people are getting those top grades, those 3As and A stars now, there has to be, you know, a cut-off point, because there's just so many people applying. And I mean, I can understand that, you know, fair enough if I had got the 3As and I hadn't got in, then I'd be a bit, you know. But if I haven't got the 3As, I don't think.
So so this is basically a preempted understanding that you've got, that if you haven't got 3As, fair enough, I'm prepared to face the consequences.
Would you be prepared not to follow your dream of becoming a doctor?
No.
So
I think
how would
UK doesn't offer you that, is that what you're saying?
If I don't have 3As, I think I would have to, there's like other pathways into medicine. For example, there's like pre-med courses in the UK, but that's paying about £16,000 a year for 1 year. And then after that, there's like a guaranteed place in maybe a UK medical school or abroad. But then again, £16,000 a year. I mean, you can get like, if you have like a maintenance grant, then it will be like decreased quite a lot depending on household income. But nowadays there's also like some schemes as well in universities. Like I know that Birmingham University does an A to B scheme, which is depending on if you meet certain criteria, that you're able to apply as an A to B student, and they have allocated number of spaces for A to B students. So they might. But
again, they do analyse your grades there as well.
Yeah, you know, of course, the grades. Wherever you go, grades will still matter. It doesn't matter what you do.
So that means in that particular scheme, there may be, again, students who've got 2 A's and a B, or a series of students actually got A's. And because I know Birmingham University also look at your GCSEs as well.
Yes,
not
they do
just
heavily,
your A levels. They actually look at your GCSEs as well. And I know that because I actually did happen to study there as well.
Okay.
So this is really going back to, so the system is not able to offer anything to students like Emin who are dedicated for whatever reason. Let's say GCSE wasn't 11 A's, but it was between A, B's and C's, which is reasonably good grades. And then now Emin's done A levels as well, which is again in good grades, not necessarily A stars and A's. System is not able to offer and help Emma get to where she wants to be.
So that's why she's going to go abroad and
do you think that's fair, and do you think is there any way we could accommodate this or can be addressed? Or that means full stop, now parents got to send their kids out? Because I'm sure a lot of students actually watching the show and they've got A's and B's and C's. And I've actually got some names as well who have got A levels, so let's just congratulate them as well, and then I will come back to this. I've got first name Elise Carver. She's got 3 A's in A levels and 2 B's, and going to Keele University to study medicine. So that's really positive. We've got Adil Ejaz, who's got 3 A's and 1 B and 1 C. And we've got Zibaish Zara, who's got 3 A's and 2 B's. So these are the names.
What is Adil going to do? And
they actually haven't mentioned, so they were just literally, because we requested our viewers to call in or send us emails and let us know what their grades are. And when you go to mosque, they actually do, by the way, rather than me sending an email, Brother Ali, can I give you my grades now? And then, this is the guys and girls who actually gave me the grades. And yeah, we wish them all the best, and I hope they do well in their career, and we wish you the same. But I think it is really important as well. We want to know what your parents do, Emin.
My mum's a primary school teacher.
She's a teacher. She's an academic. Okay.
Yeah, my dad's owns a restaurant.
Okay, so he's an entrepreneur. Again, a professional.
Yes.
So now this is again very important, and I hope that we remember our conversation a few weeks ago where we discussed that the reason why. I mean, I've got some stats here. That the students, and I mean, maybe you're already aware or may not be, unless you watched the show. That students who actually get between A, B's and C grades, up to 70% of those students' parents are actually professionals, just like yourselves. So 35% of students who actually get A, B's and C's, only their parents are in manual labour, so they're not professionals. Did you know about this particular fact?
No, I didn't, but I think it's very subjective.
In what way?
In the sense that, I mean, there's a lot more things that you should consider when it comes to someone's education, as in a household situation. I mean, me personally, my parents have been very supportive in my education, but I've never had any, I don't want to say this to sound like I'm ungrateful in any way, because like I love my parents to bits and everything, but they've never like paid for any tuition for me or anything. I've never had any tuition outside of school. And I've never had any extra support outside of like school. That was it.
No,
that
but
was
what
my
they
study.
ensured was that that you were having 100% attendance at school. They were attending your parents' evenings, I'm assuming so?
Well, no, I've never had, my parents have never attended any parents' evenings from year 10 till
onwards.
onwards.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, it's very subjective. That's just, it's a personal thing. It's just my parents never went to any of my
But
parents'
if you go back a step, then when you were in primary school,
yeah.
Grassroots.
surely they went and
Build a
The one thing,
they would have dropped you off on school on time.
Mhm.
They would have made sure that you are smart, you've done your homework. They picked you up and they made sure that you were focused. They gave you the environment which
Yeah.
would be conducive to you studying.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the one thing that they did do was create a very good foundation.
Did you have to come home and start doing other household chores, and you were expected to go and
Did you
Yeah,
do
yeah.
clean
Those are the-
and hoover and vacuum?
Well, my mum wishes I would do that continuously, but it's not quite sunk in yet. But no, I completely agree. I think the foundation that I had built was very, very good, and that's why it's always been in my head that like I don't need my parents to tell me to study or tell me to go to school.
Because they've actually
Yeah,
brought
they
you
were
up
never
that way.
worried that whether I was in school or not, because
But
I would never have that kind of
do
thing.
you
Yeah.
think, is it because they didn't, because they knew that you yourself were quite focused and responsible, and they knew that you would be responsible
But I
in
think
doing your own
the
studies?
credit still goes to Emin's parents. Purely
I
because,
firmly believe it does,
I
even
am
though
a
you
true
don't
believer of
realise.
that, purely because I think, I mean, the way your foundation was built up. See, now this is very refreshing to see that, you know, you don't even realise that, you know, you've now very driven in your education and your vision and your future, but that comes from how you've been brought up.
Yeah, that's true.
To a degree.
Yeah.
And I think when your parents thought that, right, okay, year 10, now Emin is an adult in our eyes and she can now move on. We'll support her when she wants our support, otherwise we'll leave her alone. Do you think that may be the case?
I think it's also because, you know, at a certain stage, like if you've proven to your parents that, you know, you can
Yeah.
handle the education,
restored the
that
confidence
you've
and
got
stuff.
the common
Trust,
sense
yeah.
and drive to kind of, you know, be independent in that sense, that's when they're like, okay, I think we can not back off completely, but we can
Yeah, just to keep a
just
monetary eye.
have a
on-
nice little look,
To
because
give you more independence.
Yeah.
And they've done it so subtly that even Emma herself hasn't
Doesn't even
realised.
Yeah.
yeah, I just like to
structures
correct.
of-
It's not that I don't think that my parents have had any. No, that's not true. But I think it gets to that certain stage where it's you're purely driven your own way, and that you're the one that's leading your own education. I think that's really important
That's
at that
important.
stage.
This again, I mean, this was one of the points that we discussed, that parents who actually let their children choose the subjects that
Yeah.
they feel comfortable with are actually generally
Yeah.
the successful children and successful professionals, because when there's a pressure from parents who actually tell you to choose a course or subject or go in a particular division of education, then you tend to be under pressure. And I think this is a prime example why do you want to get into medicine? Is there a pressure or something, or is there
My
any?
parents would rather me do a 3-year degree and get out, to be honest.
So you.
Yeah, they've always supported the fact that I wanted to do medicine, because
So there's no pressure from your parents
not
at all.
No
that you
way,
gotta do-
not in any way.
How
The only
supportive
thing-
are they from you
Um,
to go abroad?
They're very supportive. They are. My mum's very like, you know, she just wants, because she knows I wanted to do it for a very, very long time. It's not just a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't just jump in head first into something that I haven't thought about. So she knows, and same with my dad. I don't think anything would make him more happier than.
See you become a graduate doctor and then.
But not
MBBS.
just the fact that I'll be a doctor. That, oh yeah, my daughter's a doctor.
I think
just,
it's a matter of pride, really. Absolutely.
it's just that, you know, that I'm happy with what I'm doing and that I've succeeded in an achievable goal. So.
What's the aspiration behind it? Why do you want to go into medicine?
Oh, this is like a
Self
university
humanities?
interview now. Well, I've wanted to do it for a long time, but I think when I was younger, it was I stayed in Pakistan when I was in year 6 for a year, and I used to be at the doctors all the time. Like, I would have so many problems because I'd gone abroad, and I would always have issues with my like with everything, and I would always be at the doctor like every single week. And you know when you see like a completely different healthcare system,
Yeah.
because Pakistan's healthcare system is very different
There isn't
to
a national health.
yeah, it's completely different to the UK. And when you've experienced like completely different, and you just think that, you know, with the skills that you have, you can actually help people. I know that sounds very cliched, but
No, but that's
it's
exactly
true. It's,
what we expect to hear from you.
yeah,
because
it's that thing that you can have an impact on a person's health. And my mum always says health is the most important thing
yeah.
to anybody. I don't care what happens to you, as long as you're healthy, that's it. I'm happy. And I think that's very important. Health is a very important aspect.
And
of
also,
something.
I think this is important that we haven't got many. I mean, maybe different in next generation or so, or maybe different in the next 5-6 years or so. But at the moment, we haven't got many female professionals, and the female professionals that we presented on this show are really the ones that we can loosely count on in terms of our community, and you represent the community as well.
Definitely.
Amina herself, you know, you've worked in the community, and one of the major projects is I'd like to mention again today. Now, again, hearing from Emin that because the way she was brought up, and she had professional parents, one of them is an entrepreneur and the other one is a academic, she actually had a very strong foundation, which is exactly what your project is all about. I'd like to hear more about Acorn's primary project today.
Acorn Primary Project. It's a group of professionals and community members and teachers who've got together to provide a better provision of education in the local area. And we're doing this by putting an application for a free school proposal, but we're also looking at the academy route, and we are looking at setting up a private school through a private investor or funder. And I'm speaking at an event on the 13th of September to raise the awareness of underachievement in the local areas and how we could get the investors involved.
So your project is purely to help underachieving children on the grassroots level. What sort of age group are you talking about?
It's the age group is between 4 to 11 years of age, but we haven't ruled out secondary education, or also community groups and supplementary classes. So they all go hand in hand, and parent forums. On the one part we're setting up a school, and on the other part we're actually setting up parent forums so that they become aware of how they could help their children and the community around them. Because if there is a gap with the learning, and they don't hit the ground running when they go into secondary education, they won't go to university, or they will be jobless, and they will be a nuisance to the society and the closer community which we live in.
We wish you all the best for your project, and I hope that any professionals who are watching the show and they are in the Midlands vicinity, please get in touch with us. We need professionals to help us out and help our sister Amina as well with her project, because that project is purely designed to help community and raise awareness in the underachieving within Birmingham
Yes,
community.
I'll be doing public speaking on the 13th of
so
September.
public speaking on the 13th.
Aston Villa Football Club.
Okay, with due respect, let's just move on. So viewers, please would like to hear from you if you're a professional and then you think that is a time for you to add value back to the community, do some work with the youth, because youth really needs your help in today's day and age, because the results unfortunately weren't the healthiest result we've seen this week. We're sorry to say. Have you got some stats in terms of what sort of results we've seen? Apparently the worst results we've seen in the last 20 years.
Wow. Well, I haven't got statistics, but you can. There are some factors which
I
have
don't think
effect.
they're the worst results. They're in the last 20 years, it's the lowest of people achieving the top grades. So like the A's and the A stars and the B's. Yeah. But it has still continued to rise, as in the number of people who are still getting good grades.
The number of people who are actually still coming out getting A levels is rising. Yeah. But getting A, B's and C's.
The top grades,
A stars. Fewer people are getting A stars.
A stars is now literally a valuable commodity. Nobody's, or I should say, very limited number of students actually got A stars. I haven't actually spoken to one who. I mean, I come from a family of A stars, but I haven't seen any A stars in the family either. Have I seen any from the outside world as well? If you are watching the show and you've got A stars, we'd like to hear from you, because it's all about recognising where the talent is. I think in the last few minutes of the show, what I actually do want to talk about is the activities for our 16-year-old and overs, because it's all well and good talking about education, but I think what our youth are also missing is lack of activities. Can you think of anything that you did or you would like to, and avenues are not available to you other than education?
Well, ever since 2007, I was part of a theatre group. Yep. And it was a local, as in like a neighbourhood theatre group, and we were about 15 members. And I mean, it was great. Like, I used to go every Saturday without fail. I would get up. I used to hate getting up early, but I used to go, and it was like a really good, like, a community thing. So it was like a family kind of, and we all had an input in what was going on. We would rehearse, like, stage our own plays, organise everything. The funding we would get was like self-funded, because we had government funding for a while, but then because we didn't get it anymore, it kind of stopped in February, so we couldn't go anymore because we just.
So something that you've been working on for 5 years, and that literally kept your weekends a healthy activity or full of activity, and then it was really productive as well, because I'm assuming that you would have studied literature and plays associated with literature and Shakespeare and whatnot, these sort of dramatics, and then suddenly that stopped in February purely because you were not funded. That's exactly where your area of expertise are as well, Kuratalain. So this is a prime example of one of the projects that got stopped. What did you do afterwards? Did you just sit at home and play COD?
Oh, I hate COD. But no, it stopped. But it's like a temporary thing, because I think until we get funding, sometimes we have workshops. So in the summer they had a couple of workshops, but we can't do anything regular because we just don't have the money to like hire a place or a venue. And
so what happened to all those 20 students or members of youth who were?
They're still actually quite active in drama. So some of them have attended workshops at the Rep, I think it is. Like they hold, I think, summer workshops every year. So they're still like into the whole drama thing. And some are actually going on to, I've got a friend, she's just finished year 11 and she's going on to BOA. It's like an arts academy thing. So that's really good. Like I think she really enjoys it. So she's gone on to like think of it as a,
So this is really, I would say, limited number of youth who actually have got access to, facilities like these. But majority of our youth, they haven't got any activities, and hence we've seen an incident recently that we were talking about, where youth were so disengaged with what the local mosques were doing or what their parents. I mean, their parents were doing ibadat overnight, and then youth were actually doing some antisocial behaviour was actually witnessed, and then even police was called out. This is really a small incident that we're referring to, but
no,
it's
the
an
police
example.
wasn't called out. The police wasn't called out at the incident, but it could have escalated to the police.
So it could have gone to that point.
So the worry there is that if we're not going to do something, then it could get worse.
So a degree of inconvenience was caused for the neighbourhood.
Yes.
By those members of youth.
Yes.
And then and that could have been prevented if mosques had a better bond with the children, and then if children had a better upbringing in that way, that they understood the importance of that particular night. That's really where I think my concern goes out to, that why is it that there isn't anything that's available for youth, and what is it that they're meant to do?
I think there is opportunities out there, but it's not knowing, it's awareness. Like where I work, a group theatre, we had funding. Me and a good friend, he's an actor, he did drama, he's a qualified drama teacher. And we got some funding together, and we predominantly work with BME young people. We pay for the travel, it's all free for them, and it's been going on for 4 years now. And we work from September to March, and then do a big production, and we get a public member paid £2 fee, and then on the main stage, and it's so good. So it's not that there's no opportunities available, it's just the awareness, the lack of awareness, and not knowing what's happening in your local community. And that needs to be fed in. I think the organisation who are working with young people, delivering programmes, need to feed into getting more involved with the community and send them information out. I think that's what's lacking. There is opportunities, there's projects available up and down Birmingham, called Work in Birmingham, and there are loads of programmes running. It's just not knowing.
Students who are actually watching right now, and where can they go to find out if there is help available?
Mainly their city council website have all the programmes on.
So their local city council website,
or even their community. Every community has a community centre that have loads of, or even just leisure centre will have the up and coming events, whether it's in relation to them or not, they will still have it up.
Okay. And in terms of students who have actually done A-levels,
you see, going back to what Kuratalain has said, that although it's up to, we talk about the youth, but we also need to make the parents aware that this type of help is available, and sometimes parents don't know. And for example, the incident that you were referring to, it's the fathers are doing ibadat, and the young children are just hanging about and causing a nuisance, knock door and run, upsetting people in the neighbourhood. And these are their own community people, and people who may be acquaintances or neighbours, and yet they are bothering the people that they live near to. And the parents themselves are reluctant to tell their children off in case there might be repercussions.
Yeah.
The police is happy to support these neighbourhoods and set up a neighbourhood watch or support a community programme, but the onus has to come from the parents and the local community.
So they need to take the ownership.
Because it's in their backyard. And we don't forget, the youth are still youth, they are young, and they need guidance and they need support.
Let's just hear from Evan. Evan, what do you think is causing this rising disconnect from our youth in our community, in Asian community in particular, and rising crime?
I think going back to what Sister was saying was about, again, opportunities for, like, you know, if you don't have anything to do, and if you get into the wrong crowd, obviously the wrong crowd comes from somewhere too, it's not just,
yeah,
you know,
exactly. So that wrong crowd,
root,
again, is youth.
Yeah, you have to look at the root of the problem. But I think if there's nothing to do for young people, it's just, you know, just empty minds not to do anything. And, you know, especially socially as well, there's this pressure, I think, with Asian people especially, that, you know, if you're in a certain type of crowd, you have to, you know, match up to certain standards and you have to do certain things to be part of that crowd, otherwise you just, you know,
So
it's like these postcode wars and everything.
Right, okay, so these gang crimes. And
Yeah.
so what is leading to that? How does that happen in the first place? Because obviously you remember youth, and I'm sure, you know, when there is you've got moments when there is nothing to do.
Yeah.
And then let's just put a gender to it, and let's say if you're a guy who's 16, 17 years of age, and now you've done your homework, you've played enough PlayStation or Xbox, whatever you do, and now you actually want some physical activity, and you just don't play football or basketball or whatever boring sport. What would you do? You just want to go socialise with your friends, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
but I think socialising, it gets to a point where you don't know what's right or wrong anymore. And I think there's this thing where some things have become such a norm that it's okay to do them, but they don't realise, it doesn't click that, you know, this isn't right. And I think that goes back to the foundations thing as well, because I think, you know, if your parents have constantly, not necessarily kept an eye on you, but, you know, if they know what you're doing and they're kind of involved in everything that you're doing, then you know that, you know, my parents have my back, and, you know, I'm not going to try and upset them in any way. But it's also the whole community thing as well. As a community, you want to, you know, strengthen your community and make it look good, and not.
So it goes back to how strong your bond is with your parents. Would you say that's a fair comment?
I don't know if it's just based on that.
It's not purely. It's not subjective to you at all.
Okay.
It's just generally speaking.
I think it
When you
definitely
see
goes
members of
back to
youth
how you were
around you-
brought up.
Yeah.
It does go back to how you were brought up.
So if
Definitely.
So if I'm seeing, you know, somebody around the corner of the streets, and that's the kind of age group that you deal with, and, you know, kids on the corner of the streets, as one of the, you know, police professionals did comment to our sister Amina in previous shows.
Yeah.
See, there's a label straight away. These kids are actually doing well. They're doing GCSEs, they're doing A-levels to the best of their efforts, and not everybody's A-star boy, and not everybody's a golden nugget either. So those who are actually sitting in the middle bracket or slightly lower below average, they actually tend to go out and, you know, socialise with their friends, possibly why they get not very good grades, and then labelling them. Do you think that's agitating them at all to a degree?
You're only hindering their future, aren't you? Not empowering them. So if you just go and label them, you don't. Again, it depends. Just because they're in a group, I believe when I work with a group of young people, I see them as individuals, not as a group. So because they all got hoodies, or they're smoking something, or one of them smoking and the other one's doing something wrong or whatever, or drinking, I'm not going to label all of them as the same.
So you would treat them as individuals rather than a group.
Every individual has their own story to tell.
Do you speak on behalf of those members of youth, or this is just your?
No, I'm a youth worker, so I'm speaking for youth.
So this is how members of youth feel themselves.
Because what they do, like the media, so he's a yob, they're yobs, or any negative language associated with young people. But as an individual, I know that every person's got a story to tell, and they've got issues, which is why they're there. But doesn't mean to say they're negative, and that's why the police can do a lot more of what they're doing now.
Right, got it. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
We've got literally 1 minute, so couple of words from you in the end, summing up the show over the last 4 weeks, and now which direction do you think our youth should take, and which direction our parents should take?
I think the last few programs have been quite knowledgeable, giving out information to parents.
We kept this
and
one
the
very
community,
relaxed,
and
purely because of Eid and stuff. So.
Of course. And hopefully, we're hoping that the parents are going to keep an eye out for what their children are doing, what they're getting up to, giving their children more support, supporting them in their education and with the mosque activities and other social activities. And the youth to be more aware that they also have a responsibility. They are our future and they need to act in a responsible way. But if there are problems, they need to also talk. If they can't talk with their family, then perhaps some friends or seek help.
Yeah.
And also ask for some service which would benefit them, which they would enjoy.
Try and access the resources.
Yes, for example, last week we had On here, and he said, "Look, I would like to see X, Y, and Z." You know,
no, it's pretty straightforward, focused.
Exactly.
Opinion. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Amina. Just briefly, last few words from you. You've done A-levels now, and we wish you all the best. I hope you aspire and then do whatever you wish to do in your life. And we again will stay in touch with you anyway, just to see how you're getting on. But what do you think the advice you would give to students who are now going to become A-level students, and they've finished GCSEs, and those students who are now going to become GCSE students? What sort of advice would you give to them?
I would say just do the subjects you want to do and not what your parents want you to do, because at the end of the day, GCSEs and A-levels.
Okay.
Don't do what your parents are doing or your friends are doing or which subject has the best teacher, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to have to study. Nobody's going to give your exam for you, and you have to be motivated to study for an exam. So if you like that subject, you'll study for it, otherwise you won't. And also just don't be scared. I mean, A-levels, I know it seems like it's daunting, but it's, you'll get through them. I didn't think I was going to get through them, honestly. I thought, 6 months ago, I was like, no, I can't do this. But you do get through them.
But eventually you did.
Yeah, you do. And, hard work does pay off. I think it does. If you really, truly work hard, it will pay off. And, if you have any goal for the future, just work on it. Don't give up because of what people say or because, it's not the stereotypical thing to do. Just do whatever you want to do. And
briefly, what would you like to say to the Department of Education in terms of universities?
Can you take me now?
That was a very honest play, but on that note, we thank you for being with us today. It was really pleasant having, again, a member of youth who's literally just finished A-levels. Once again, on behalf of Hidayat Television, Hidayat family, and all the volunteers, we would like to thank both of you for your input throughout this show, throughout the course of Ramadan. Believe you me, the kind of feedback that we've had from senior management, the kind of feedback that we've had from our peers and our viewers, it's phenomenal, in particular for both of you and your expertise and the kind of experience that you shared with us. So once again, we would like to thank you and wish you all the best, and we hope to keep in touch with you on future shows as well. On that note, viewers, this has been a really, really tremendous and outstanding journey throughout. The Voice of Youth was a show that was purely designed as an exercise where we could bring about those issues and bring to the table where youth are feeling that they're being neglected. Those issues are actually now becoming a bigger voice on a wider scale, a wider community, and also it is now the time for us to do something about it. The parents who actually been watching the show, we thank you for your input. Members of youth who've been watching at home, I hope that you actually enjoyed and gained some knowledge and drive for future. On that note, your presenter Ali Mohsin Hashmi signs off from Hidayat Television, Birmingham Studios. Assalamu alaikum.